Coming up on this week's show, Carrie joins us to talk about her latest novel, Past Imperfect, and she's also giving away a copy.
Welcome to the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for readers and writers of gay romance fiction. If you can read it, write it, watch it, or listen to it, these two guys are going to talk about it. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Adams and Will Knaus.
Welcome to episode 148 of the Big Gay Fiction Podcast.
I'm Jeff from JeffAdamsWrites.com.
And I'm Will from WillKnaus.com. This week's episode is brought to you in part by listeners just like you. We will have more information on how you can help support the show in just a few moments. Welcome back, everyone. Another week, another show. We're glad you're here and glad you're joining us.
Absolutely.
You've got a tidbit or two of news to share with our listeners. Fill us in.
I'm excited to say that Codename Winger 4, which has a title of Netminder, was submitted to Harmony Inc. this past week. So that is out the door, and the editorial process will be happening immediately. So I'll be in edits here any day now on what will be the final book in the Winger series. So very happy about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Would you like to offer some more congratulations to our audience out there?
I would. Congrats to Kendra. She's the one who won. She's the one who won. Oh, words. You're so funny. Okay, so congrats to Kendra. She won the Layla Reyne giveaway in episode 146. She got a mass market paperback of Imperial Stout and a $25 Amazon gift card.
Congrats. That's an awesome prize.
It is.
Yeah. So some news from friends of the podcast, Suzanne Brockmann and Jason T. Gaffney. They have a new Kickstarter out. They've got a new film going into production this fall called Out of Body. This time out, Suzanne and her son actually wrote the script together. And Suzanne did the novelization, which is actually already out in novelization. And you can get See, words are fun.
No, words are hard.
Suzanne,
try it again.
The novelization is already out, so
yes.
You can pick that up on Amazon, and we've got a link in the show notes to that. This particular story is a friends to lovers story with a supernatural twist. It seems that Henry has been in love with his best friend Malcolm since college, and then one night he kisses Malcolm, and it's on Halloween, and for some reason, Malcolm just vanishes. Poof, he's gone. Why is that? All is told in the movie Out of Body. Their Kickstarter runs until Tuesday, August 21st, and it's already more than half funded, which is fantastic news. There are great rewards out there to get, so if you want to back this romantic comedy, you can head over to Kickstarter to check it out, and there is a link in our show notes.
Teenage secret agent Theo Reese is back in action in Schooled, the second book in the Codename Winger series. Theo's high school computer science club is gearing up for a competition, and he agrees to lend his knowledge of cybersecurity to help them win. The covert agency he secretly works for also needs his talents when an encrypted key that allows access to the nation's electrical grid has been stolen. The file shows up at the competition as one of those to be decoded. Theo must find a way to be both an average high school student and TOS agent Winger. The file must be secured, all while protecting his teammates from those who will use any means necessary to get the file for themselves. Schooled is available in ebook and paperback wherever books are sold. And if you missed Theo's first mission, pick up Tracker Hacker today.
So this past week, I read a book by Keira Andrews, Kidnapped by the Pirate. Now, Jeff, you already have read and reviewed this book way back in episode 134 during our Keira Andrews Palooza. That was a great episode. If you haven't checked out 134, please do. So I will reiterate how amazing this book is.
It's so good.
It's really damn good. And I listened to the audiobook this week. I highly recommend that. If you're a fan of audiobooks, please check out Kidnapping the Pirate. Real quickly, to sum up what it's all about, the title says it all. It's a historical, and it's about a guy named Nathaniel. He is on a boat headed to the New World. It is boarded by the big mean pirate guy by the name of Seahawk. And the Seahawk realizes that Nathaniel is actually the son of his arch nemesis, so he therefore kidnaps Nathaniel and keeps him holed up in the ship while they head to the new colonization. And during that time, they of course get to know one another, and of course they fall in love with one another, and dramatic happenings and adventures ensue. What I thought was really nice about this book is that from I number one, I incredibly enjoyed it as a reader, but as a writer, I was looking at it from a structure point of view. Structurally, it's almost identical to the book that I reviewed in episode 134, and I'm trying to remember the Desert Island book. It's called crap, I should have written this down. I can't remember. By the Sea, something by the Sea.
Oh yeah, I kind of
vaguely
remember that. It might be By the Sea.
I think that might just be the name of it. Anyway,
Sorry, Keira.
in both books, in the very broadest terms, they're very similar because there's an inciting incident, i.e., in Beyond the Sea. Beyond the Sea, that's what it was called. In Beyond the Sea, there's of course we're introduced to our two main characters, and then there's the plane crash in this fantastic historical Kidnapped by the Pirate. We are introduced to our two main characters, and then the kidnapping happens. Then they spend the bulk of the book together, and in both stories, the characters throughout the course of the narrative, they're more than meets the eye. Each character makes assumptions about the other, but then as they spend more and more time together, they realize, oh, this is a real life person, and they're actually pretty awesome. And oh, by the way, I'm falling in love with them as well. In the case of Kidnapped by the Pirate, Hawk realizes that Nathaniel is a whole lot more than just a spoiled brat. He's actually incredibly smart and very capable guy. And Nathaniel realizes that Hawk is more than meets the eye. He's a whole lot more than a big, scary pirate. Hawk is actually yearning to hang up his, proverbial eye patch and give up his seafaring days and spend his nights with someone by a cozy fire. So, in Kidnapped by the Pirate, they end up falling in love, but eventually they get to the New World and they have to do the handoff. And that goes very, very badly for everyone concerned. Nathaniel is gravely injured and the Seahawk is captured. There is a huge storm on Primrose Isle, which is the new settlement that Nathaniel's horrible father, he's a horrible person, and gets everything he deserves. There's a terrible storm, and after they finish dealing with that, Nathaniel has to rescue Hawk, who's being brought to the island in order to be hanged. Everything turns out fine in the end, and I really, really enjoyed Kidnapped by the Pirate. For those of you who aren't huge fans of historical stories, please give this one a try. I also was very, very hesitant when it came to historicals. Cat Sebastian cured me of that.
Me too.
Because I read some historicals, primarily John Jakes, in the late 80s and 90s. And those are very different types of books. They are very... what's the word I'm looking for? They're very history forward. They're very heavily researched. There's a whole lot of history stuff to wade through. And then in the case of John Jakes, he makes it palatable by, liberally, peppering in sex and violence. So you can get through those like giant doorstopper tomes of his. In this case, in the case of Cat Sebastian, and in the case of Keira Andrews Kidnapped by the Pirate, any historical trappings or facts are only there if they're in service of the characters or the story. If it doesn't have anything to do with what's going on emotionally with the characters, out of there. It's not there. You don't have to, yeah. It's not dry or boring or anything like that. It's really, really wonderful. I highly recommend Kidnapped by the Pirate.
Yeah, I'm so glad you liked it. When you finally got to it, it's been fun listening to you as you go through and read it in this past week. So, yay! I'm glad you got there finally.
Well, I don't know if this doesn't happen to me very often. Is that when you're reading a book, you will like audibly gasp or something happens and you like when the kidnapping trade-off went very, very badly. I've been listening to it on my earphones when I go for my walk in the very early mornings. And thankfully, I'm all by myself because when the kidnapping went bad, I was like, oh my God, right out there in the nature. It was ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, I really, really liked it.
I was the same way with when the trade-off went wrong, and then just realizing how awful the father was.
Oh, he's a dickbag.
Just more than once you go, oh my God, what is wrong with you?
He's terrible. Okay, let's get to some of your books. You've been busy reading as well.
I have been, yes. I've got two to talk about this week. So the first one I'll go with is called 5 Minutes Longer. It's book 1 of the Enhanced World series from Victoria Sue. Mm-hmm. I once again did audio because I've become just this audio fiend. And this one's narrated by Nick J. Russo. And I think this is the first book that I've done from Nick. I could be wrong, but I think this was the first. In this book, there has been an event in the world that has suddenly brought about enhanced humans. So it's a little bit X-Men. It's a little bit, if you prefer to consider it against some other books that are out in our genre, it's a little bit Thirds, the Charlie Cochet series. So there's all these humans now who are enhanced, and you know they're enhanced because they all have a mark on the exact same spot on their face. And it's a mark they can't get rid of. They've tried plastic surgery. They can't get rid of it. They've done, it burns away makeup. So you can't just go, ooh, and it's gone. This has been out there for a while. The enhanced are shunned. They are not trusted. They can't get loans. They can't often get jobs. Or if they do get jobs, they're stuck in places like construction or maybe security where kind of their enhanced abilities can come into play. In this case, we actually start the book meeting a regular by the name of Finn Mayer. He has wanted to be an FBI agent since he was 14, and Career Day brought an FBI agent to his school, and he's like, I want to do that. And he's done everything he can to get there, but the fact that he never had his dyslexia diagnosed has made it nearly impossible for him to get there because his grades just aren't quite what's needed to get into Quantico. However, the FBI is looking at it, making a unit where there are enhanced paired with regulars, and he is an ideal one to bring into this because since he wants in so badly, he kind of won't bat an eye at that. However, he has had friends who have turned enhanced, which usually happens during puberty, and seen them carted away. So he doesn't mind working with enhanced. He doesn't understand why the enhanced are so shunned, et cetera, et cetera. So he's kind of game to go with this, but the catch is he's only got 4 weeks to kind of jam all of what could have been Quantico training and be ready to go to make this unit happen. On the flip side of this, you've got Talon Valdez, who is helping to form this unit, but he's not all that excited about having to work with humans because what most people don't know is that the enhanced are continuing to evolve. So where people think they know what the enhanced can do, the enhanced are starting to find out that they've got more powers than even they realized. And they're trying to keep those kind of secret because they don't want to be even more feared than they already are. So you've got these two who are being pushed together to make this new task force. The training scenes are intense. Trying to get Finn up to speed, even though he's really eager. He's never fired a gun. He's never had to think like an agent. But he is, even with his dyslexia, he is whip smart. He knows facts. He learns really quickly. Like if he takes in the information, he retains it. And he does think outside of the box, which can be helpful for an agent, of course. Talon's already got 5 enhanced on the task force, and Finn is the only human, which creates an interesting balance of power. But there's also the fact that Talon and Finn find themselves drawn to each other. From the very first time they meet, there are sparks that kind of fly between them. And as we know from other FBI books, it's kind of a no-no to fraternize with your partner and your team. And they kind of ignore that for a while. This is my first time to read Victoria Sue, and I love how she's created this world. Much like we were just talking about with historicals, there's not anything you need to know about the world. You just get it when you need to know it. So It's not like you're trying to take in too much too soon or taking in stuff that doesn't really matter. It's all in service to the story and the characters, what you're getting. Finn's backstory, and especially his family, is insanely interesting because they want to keep him down and they want to keep him kind of under their control, if you will, so that he'll help just support the family. But then as soon as he's getting a modicum of success with the FBI, they just want to be, oh, Finn, it's so nice. What can we do? How can we help you? And it's just like, you want him to punch them, which he never does, but you really want him to. There is, of course, the big bad in this, which is a enhanced kind of rights organization who really want the enhanced to take over the world because, they're enhanced and they should. And the plot that goes down there was so good to read. I got so super tense in all this and how they were going to work this out and make it work and put it all back together again. Victoria really ratchets up the tension so good. I've discovered recently, and you and I have talked about this, that I seem to be going down more of a path of romantic suspense. And of course, this has the little paranormal layer because of the enhanced humans and stuff. But that little extra of like law enforcement danger, like with the Layla Reyne books and some of the other stuff I've read lately, has been oh so good for me. So I really enjoyed 5 Minutes Longer. There is another book out right now in Enhanced World that I want to pick up. And the third book actually comes out in September, and Victoria will be here to talk about that when we can learn all about the Enhanced World series a little bit more. So 5 Minutes Longer, Victoria Sue. Nick J. Russo does an awesome job on the narration on that, so you can give that a go if you want. The other, and then I flipped to a YA side. I just totally flipped to an entirely different thing. Reading a novel, a debut novel by Alexander C. Eberhart, called There Goes Sunday School. As you might guess, this book focuses on high school students who, there's a lot of religion going on in this book as well. This is the story of Mike and Chris. They're both 16 years old, juniors, heavily involved in their church. They go to a Christian school, and they are told almost on a daily basis, and particularly on at Sunday services, that gay is not okay. Mike has been dealing with the fact that he knows he's gay for many years, even to the fact that he has occasional hookups at Bible camp, which we get at the very front part of the story. He's also an aspiring artist, and he has more than a few risque pieces of art in his sketchbook, which very scarily for him goes missing during Sunday school one Sunday morning. He's sure his life is just over and done. Chris Myers, on the other hand, is the pastor's son. So he is the PK, as he's called in the book, for being pastor's kid. He also has had enough of hiding because he's gay. And he's kept that kind of pushed down for a long time. And these two end up with a confrontation. And Mike is convinced he's about to get punched by the pastor's kid. But then the pastor's kid leans in and kisses him. So after that confrontation, obviously, Chris has now come out to Mike that he's gay. And these two end up pushing each other's boundaries a little bit on, should we come out? Should we stay in the closet? What do we do now? If we come out at school, we're going to get thrown out. What does it mean for Chris to be coming out to his father, who is so vehemently anti-gay? All of this just built so beautifully. I think Alexander did a wonderful job building these two characters who, once they were out to each other, helped one another to keep building their relationship and building the confidence to come out. The book is all in Mike's POV, and that's really interesting because the anxiety that he continues to have is interesting. The thing that I love most about this book is that it didn't go anywhere that I expected it to once the two came out. I had very set ideas on what was going to happen to Chris because of his father. I had ideas on Mike, and I think a lot of my points of view on Mike are because of how Mike thought it was going to go for him as he came out. And Alexander kind of just kept turning all those into a much better story that I was looking at. I should note that this is not typical YA romance because it doesn't follow those tropes. But I will tell you that the ending is one of the best endings that I've ever read in a YA book because it just kind of tweaked everything a little bit from where I thought it was going to go. So give Alexander Eberhart's There Goes Sunday School a try if you want a great YA book by a debut author. And he'll also be on the show in the coming weeks so we can learn more about his debut novel.
Now, if any of these books sound good to you and you're interested in purchasing them, all you have to do is go to the show notes page at biggayfictionpodcast.com, and that is where we have all of the links for the books and, frankly, for everything else that we've mentioned on today's show. You do a really fantastic job of doing the show notes for our show. We listen to a lot of podcasts. Some of them really half-ass this. Jeff does not. If we even mention something in passing, you know that you're going to have to link to it on the show notes page. So if these books sound interesting, please go to the show notes page for this particular episode. You can get all the purchase links right there. And if you use our affiliate links, we get a few pennies that help us assure that the proverbial lights stay on here at the Big Gay Fiction Podcast.
Now, you can also help support the Big Gay Fiction Podcast with a monthly pledge through Patreon. For as little as 25 cents an episode, your pledge helps pay for the cost of producing and distributing this show. And for the fans who pledge at the silver and gold levels, you'll have the exclusive opportunity to ask questions of our upcoming guests. And there are some good ones coming up, for sure. In addition, you also get our monthly bonus episode where we give you even more than you get on the weekly basis here on the show. And all patrons have the option to have a personalized thank you sent to them from us. Now, all you have to do to get all of the details on this is go to our page at patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast. That's patreon.com/biggayfictionpodcast.
Want to hang out with us between shows? Check us out on Facebook. You never know what we might post. News about book sales, bonus video content, and maybe even a live broadcast or two. Like us today at facebook.com/biggayfictionpodcast and see what we get up to next.
I recently had the opportunity to talk with Carrie Pack. She's making her return to the podcast to talk about her new novel, Past Imperfect, and we're going to learn about a brand new podcast that she's also hosting called By Sci-Fi. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up in this interview. I'm very happy today to welcome back Carrie Pack to the podcast. Carrie's novels focus on characters finding themselves in their own time, something she experienced for herself when she came out as bisexual. She's passionate about science fiction, feminism, and red lipstick. Carrie was last on the podcast in episode 37, and she's back to talk about her new book, Past Imperfect, which is the sequel to the award-winning In the Present Tense. Welcome, Carrie.
Hello, good to be back.
Yeah, great to have you here. Now, before we dig into this new book, let's remind people who may not have heard in the past what In the Present Tense is about. Tell us all about Miles.
Well, it's time travel. So all of the tropes and pitfalls of writing it go with that. But Miles has a form of dissociative disorder that in my world causes him to time travel. So it's kind of akin to like a dissociative identity disorder. So where you have the alternate personalities, but instead of having an alternate personality, he shifts to an alternate timeline. So if he's stressed or the certain things that can trigger that dissociation will trigger him to time travel. So in the present tense, predominantly, he's really trying to connect with an ex-boyfriend from high school. His younger self kind of appears and kind of wreaks havoc on his marriage because at the beginning of the book, he's married to a woman. And his younger self really is trying to figure out what went wrong and why did he break up with this guy that he was so in love with. And so in the midst of all that, uncovers this massive conspiracy to kind of figure out the secret to time travel and finds himself really caught up in that, while also trying to navigate this crazy romantic triangle he's gotten himself into.
Yeah, the first time we talked about this, I'm just like, wow, that's the concept right there.
Or, if you would like, I call it The Time Traveler's Wife Meets the X-Files.
Nice. I do like that kind of crossover there. So in the sequel, Past Imperfect, what's happening this time out?
So it literally picks up where In the Present Tense left off. So if you haven't read that, mute for a few seconds because I'm talking spoilers. But at the end of In the Present Tense, Miles and his conspirator there, her name's Bethany. He meets her while he's in a psychiatric institution. They have escaped and they're on the run. And I've added Bethany's point of view to Past Imperfect. So now we're also getting her experiences with time travel, and her time travel is triggered by her schizophrenia. So she's having paranoid delusions. She's having those psychotic episodes that will trigger her to time travel. So it manifests very similarly to Miles, but it's caused by a different disorder. And then, of course, in this book, they really get to the heart of the conspiracy and kind of are trying to take down that evil corporation that's studying them like lab rats.
What was your inspiration for this new installment? And we talked a little bit before we actually hit the record button that you hadn't planned this to be a series, but you knew it was going to be by the time you'd finished the first one.
Yeah, I left, anyone who's read In the Present Tense knows it kind of ends on I wouldn't call it a cliffhanger, because to me a cliffhanger is like literally you don't know what's going to happen. It's a happy for now. Like we know where the characters stand. We know that they've gotten away from the most pressing evil in the book. But there's a lot of unanswered questions. And when I wrote it, I really intended to write a longer book. But, publishing is one of those things where it's like, look, we really got to limit your word count because then the book starts to get too expensive and we're just not sure. So I hit kind of my word limit and had to kind of rethink what I wanted to do. So I ended up with a happy for now. And then said, okay, I'm going to write the sequel. And if my publisher doesn't want it, I'll self-pub it. I'll do, maybe I'll crowdfund it or whatever I have to do, but I got to wrap this story up because it's not finished. But yes, when I initially sat down to write In the Present Tense, I wanted it to be one complete story. So it really you could start reading immediately. The second you finish In the Present Tense, pick up Past Imperfect and be like, wow, this literally picks up within 5 minutes of the end of that other book.
Looking back, what was the inspiration for this entire story? Because it's interesting to me how you got the whole time travel aspect, and some people do just time travel books, and then you have the characters with what they have going on, and you melch them together. How did all that kind of come about?
The very, very, very beginnings of the story was actually a fan fiction prompt that someone gave me. And it literally was the opening scene of In the Present Tense initially was a very short fan fiction of a character waking up in bed with a friend of his, and he doesn't know how he got there. And he's suddenly much older than he thought he was. And so I thought, time travel, what a great way to explain that. And I never quite got around to writing it as a fully fledged fan fiction. And so I thought, this would make a really great time travel novel. Why is this person time traveling? Why would you wake up in your own body in a different time? And what would cause that to happen? And I will say that the idea for the dissociative disorder came from a friend. That was totally, she said, well, what if they're, what about DID? What about dissociative identity disorder? How maybe that would, kind of create this. And then there's always the question of, is this person time traveling or is it just their mental illness? And then from there, as I write, I'm much more of a pantser than a plotter. So as I wrote it, I'm like, oh, but what if like his doctor's really trying to figure out like what, how time travel is possible? And like, because let's be honest, scientists for, eons have been, can we really time travel? And the science behind it, yes, we can. Question is, can we, feasibly do it? Obviously anytime you're flying in an airplane, you're time traveling because you're going faster than the people on the ground. So little known fact. but the physics of it, like the physics behind time travel are totally possible. So if it has to do with the relation of the speed of light, and I don't want to get too technical here, but basically what I thought of was, well, okay, so in their brains, if your brain is functioning at a faster rate than a neurotypical person, would that mean then that you could, in effect, affect your own timeline? And so that's kind of where the time traveler's wife thing comes in. He is traveling within his own timeline, much like we see in that book. But mine's not nearly that tragic. I can't do tragic.
Now, since you are a pantser, do you eventually, in your revisions, have to resolve all the science that you have going on, or do you just make the science like consistent in your own world?
Yes. Well, you know what's funny? Pantsing is weird because I do plot a little ahead. It's not like I completely sit down and go, I don't know what's going to happen with these people. I do kind of know, but I don't sit down with a full outline. So I kind of know what's going to happen a few days out or a few chapters out, but beyond that, I don't really and so it does require me to go back and fix a lot. And I had a really serendipitous moment writing past Imperfect. This is the great thing about time travel. So there's a scene in the present tense where I create what is a potential minor plot hole. A character kind of says, oh, I find this item in my room 3 days from now. Well, at the end of the book, she can't possibly be in her room 3 days from then because they're gone. And I explain it by time travel, and she's totally lying to the guy. So I rewrote the scene from her point of view in Past Imperfect. And so now I fixed my plot hole, but not only that, it helped the plot in Past Imperfect by creating a way for her to be able to time travel back and talk to him about something that she needed him to know. So does the brain figure that? That's another question, I guess, for another time. But like, does your brain figure that out for you? Does it know? It's like, I got this. We're gonna figure this out, because that's how it felt. And I'm like messaging everyone I know, going, oh my God, I figured this out. But yeah, so it very much, when you're pantsing, like I would highly recommend not pantsing 2 time travel novels with nonlinear timelines. Like, don't let me do it. Somebody message me and be like, never do this again. Because it causes so much of that you do have to go back and fix. So there's a lot at the editing stage. I was in the last version of Past Imperfect and found a timeline error, and I just, you freak out because you're like, did I screw up the whole book? Do I need to rewrite this whole thing? But it was fine. It was minor. But still, you always have that. If you're not, I figure out my timeline after the fact. Something's wrong with me.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that, because you're at least, you're figuring it out. You're fixing it during editing, and I think even if you plotted, you'd still have to go back and double check to make sure it all made sense in the long run.
Absolutely.
So doing it after, I don't think that's a problem at all, in my own opinion.
Thank you. Well, and if it works out, I guess it's not a bad strategy. But I just so admire people that can sit down and F.T. Lukens is a good friend of mine, writes amazing YA sci-fi and fantasy. She's a plotter, and she will have her note cards and her outlines, and I'm so jealous, because I'm like, if I knew where the story was going, it would have been finished 6 months ago. Like, I just jealous.
And I think it's impressive that you can pant something this complex, because to me that's my mind's blown, because I don't think I could do that. I'd have to go, this happens, then this happens, because otherwise I'd get to the end and be like, I don't think this is what I meant to do.
Well, read it and tell me if it was successful. No, I do feel like I pulled it off. Like, that was the big thing with writing time travel, was I am such a time travel nerd. Like, I don't know if you can see my Mulder and Scully back here, but they're like right there. But I am such a sci-fi time, especially when it involves time travel, conspiracy, any of that stuff. And to write something with time travel in it was such a daunting challenge to me. I thought, I'm going to screw this up. It's going to be the worst thing anyone's ever read. And just even getting beyond that hurdle and being, no, I can really do this, was big for me. It was huge. So I'm really proud of this series.
Awesome. And it is award-winning, too. So
It is.
Which is awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I won the Indies Book of the Year in science fiction. I got the bronze medal, so I got 3rd place. But still, that's amazing to me. Like, you enter those awards, and you think, oh, no one's gonna. That's not. I'll just try it. I'll see. And to be a finalist, and then you get the award, and it's mind blowing. So I'll take it. I'll take it every time.
And you're putting your sci-fi geekdom and excitement to good use. You started a podcast recently called the Bi Sci-Fi Podcast. What prompted that launch?
Well, we had been a group of author friends of mine and I, C.B. Lee, F.T. Lukens, and Rachel Davidson Lee, bunch of people that I've been friends with for years. We started this Bi Sci-Fi chat a few years ago because we realized we were all writing these speculative fiction stories that had bisexual characters. And as someone who came out as bisexual myself, I'm like, this is really, to me, sci-fi just lends itself so well to all different parts of sexuality. And to me, bisexuality is the logical progression of us being more comfortable in non-heterosexual sexualities. So for me, that was logical, but I kept the name because it rhymes so nicely, and because our dear friend Scott Coatsworth and Angel Martinez, they stole queer sci-fi, so I can't have that. So I stuck with the bi sci-fi because I'm bisexual. It's predominantly based on my love of sci-fi, but I cover all kinds of speculative fiction. So I've already had fantasy authors on there, some romance with sci-fi element authors. I'm recording some segments today for the second episode, so I'm really going to cover the gamut of speculative fiction, both in books, movies, TV, because that's the stuff I love. So it's going to be all kinds of queer representation, though, not just bisexuality.
That's awesome. I mean, we love anytime somebody else comes into the podcast space, especially another author. So very glad to see that there. Who can you share on your upcoming guest list?
I just finished a segment literally like 20 minutes before I got on here with you with Julia Ember, who's the author of Seafarer's Kiss and the companion novel to that's coming out, The Navigator's Touch. She's great. We had a great little chat. I'm interviewing Chris Bedell later, who personally not familiar with, but whose upcoming book sounds amazing. And then, of course, my first episode was F.T. Lukens and Taylor Brook. And then I'm hoping I'm going to have Angel Martinez on. Well, actually, no, she's scheduled. And then possibly soon, Michelle Osgood and C.B. Lee are going to also be guests. So it's just a matter of getting that scheduled and getting it on the calendar. But yeah, but it's open. I mean, I don't want to limit it to just authors. I'd love to have, crazy sci-fi fans on, because that's what all of us authors are anyway. I just want to have fun with it. I mean, I love you know how podcasting is. It's great. It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to get to talk to a whole bunch of different people who, in some cases, you would never run into at events, even because you just don't necessarily all connect up at the same time.
Yeah, that's how we met, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what's up next writing wise? Is there more to the time travel series or new stuff coming up?
I think I'm done with the time travel. If I ever go back to it, I think I'll do like a little, maybe a bonus kind of novella or free or something, or self-pub. Maybe a kind of a backstory on Miles and Adam, who are the main couple and in the present tense, because I think there's a lot of, cute contemporary young adult romancy kind of thing I could explore there. But I haven't even started that. I am working on a young adult horror, which I'm hoping to. I think I'm going to self-pub it just because it's going to be novella length. So, but it's very paranormally in that a town has children become possessed by Christmas lights. They get kind of
Christmas lights. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of started from, the little blue LED Christmas lights. They're very sharp, pointed lights. And my husband and I both always say, like, I can't focus on them. The blue light he and I don't see it very well. And it creeps me out a little bit. And so it kind of came from that. So this town also switches to energy efficient lights and it possesses the children. It's really creepy.
I don't know if I can read that, because Christmas lights are nice and magical. I
know.
Not at all evil.
My hometown has a really great Christmas light festival thing that they do. It runs from like Thanksgiving to the end of January. And I just thought, like, what if that was the thing causing it, and it's not going to end until you take down those lights? And so that's what I'm currently working on. And then after that, I've got a couple more YA ideas I think I'm going to dig into. So
nice. Very cool. Now, you've come with a giveaway for our listeners. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm going to be giving away, I've got an ARC of Past Imperfect, which these are hard to come by. But I'll sign it, ship it to somebody, and hopefully they'll get a chance to read this bad boy before it comes out on August 9th.
Nice. All right. That's very cool. So anybody who wants that, all they have to do is send an email to giveaway@BigGayFictionPodcast and put the word past into the subject line, and they will be registered to win. And we'll have more details on how they could do that after the interview. That's very cool. Thank you for offering that up.
No problem.
And what's the best way for listeners to keep up with you and everything you're doing?
I'm on Twitter. That's probably the best way. Everybody kind of, it's easy. You get notifications. I'm at Carrie Pack. I'm also at By Sci-Fi for the podcast. So that's a great way to keep in touch with me. And, but I check them both. So.
Cool. We'll link up to that. We'll definitely link up to the podcast so people can go find that. And wish you the best of luck with Past Imperfect.
Thank you.
Thank you once again to Carrie. We're so glad that she could come on the show one more time and tell us everything that she's been up to. Especially if you're into sci-fi, give her podcast a try. It sounds really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to be listening to some myself here because her second episode has dropped since we talked to her. So there's 2 out there now to listen to. And a reminder, she is giving away a paperback arc of Past Imperfect. All you have to do to enter that giveaway is to email giveaway@biggayfictionpodcast.com with the word past in the subject line. Again, giveaway@biggayfictionpodcast.com with the word past in the subject line. You should just do that right now. Pick up your phone, send an email, get that over here. Now, this giveaway is limited to U.S. residents only, given the shipping. Shipping books ain't cheap, folks. We know that. So sorry for the international folks, but limited to U.S. You can enter through Sunday, August 12th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time to get your entries. What's the address again?
Giveaway at biggayfictionpodcast.com.
There you go.
I think that'll do it for this week's episode. Coming up next week in episode 149, Jeff Knight. He's going to join us to talk about adventures and millionaires.
I was so happy to talk to Jeff. Jeff's one of my favorite people. And we haven't seen him in a while because he hasn't been back over here. He's in Australia, hasn't been back to the States in a while, so it was good to catch up with him on the Skype and to get him onto the show finally.
Yeah, be sure and check it out. It's got a great accent.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a delight to talk to, but he also has a great accent. Okay, guys, remember, no matter where life takes you, the journey will always be sweeter when you have a book. So, until next time, everyone, please keep turning those pages and keep reading.
For detailed show notes and the complete episode backlist, go to biggayfictionpodcast.com. New episodes are available every Monday on all major podcast distributors and YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.